Hi there, Podcast Nation. Welcome to this week's Global Health Podcast about the Democratic Republic of Congo. I am your host, Chelsea, and I have two informative guests with me today.
Hey guys, I'm Brooke.
And I am Brandon.
Thanks for having us.
Today we are discussing the HIV and AIDS epidemic among the Mbuti people through the lens of power imbalances within the DRC. Brooke and Brandon, can you give us a little background?
So, the DRC is the second largest country in Africa, home to 85.2 million people. Located in Central Africa, the DRC is abundant with natural resources. However, economically, they are not flourishing due to instability and constant conflict.
The Mbuti people are a tribe that inhabits 70,000 square kilometers of tropical rainforest within DRC. They are a pygmy hunter-gatherer group who live entirely off the forest. When weather permits, the Mbuti groups will venture into the forest for a less complicated life, with more lands to forage and less disease.
Thanks for that quick overview. So from my understanding, these people are very isolated. Can you tell me more about their interactions with outside groups?
Yeah, so the Mbuti people trade with outsiders, like local villages and rebel groups, to obtain goods that they cannot make or forage themselves.
So what kind of effect does that have on their community?
Well, DRC has a long history of political turmoil and violence within the country and surrounding borders, creating the rebel groups that have largely contributed to the sexual violence against women and children. This has resulted in higher rates of HIV and AIDS, especially when they interact with these isolated populations like the Mbuti peoples.
You know what? I agree. It is significant, but it isn't the only factor. Cultural beliefs and traditional practices, especially those involving blood and body fluids, such as sexual cleansing rituals and genital mutilation, also give rise to high rates. In fact, there is an interesting widespread belief among locals that sexual intercourse with pygmy women offer some kind of protection against backache, AIDS, and other ailments, and this is all due to their special powers as forest dwellers.
Wow, it sounds like these pygmy women are experiencing a lot of oppression within their community.
Well, actually, the Mbuti people are egalitarian, having no political structure. It is actually the power imbalances coming from outside groups that is contributing to more instances of rape and abuse of Mbuti women.
Oh, okay. So can you tell me more about these power imbalances within the DRC?
I got this one, Brandon. So, political unrest has led to unsteady government leaders and corruption. Although the Mbuti share power regardless of gender, this does not speak for the rest of the country. They have more of a dictatorship led by men.
So, if the country is mainly led by men, but this issue is affecting predominantly women, what is being done to treat and address this issue?
That's actually a pretty broad question, so due to this being a health issue, I'm going to address it from a healthcare point of view. The healthcare system in the DRC is complicated. There is little regulation of treatments, drugs, and care providers. This leads to poor confidence in healthcare within the country. An estimated 70% of the country's population has little to no access to healthcare.
With so many people having limited access to healthcare, what can be done to improve health outcomes for individuals affected by HIV and AIDS?
Well, looking outside of the DRC, many countries have implemented strategies to help reduce the rates. A few worth mentioning are encouraging safe sex practices and providing more education around the use of condoms, microbicide, prophylactic treatments, and using antiretrovirals with HIV-positive partners. Also, HIV testing and counseling have proven to be effective, along with decreasing gender vulnerabilities such as sexual violence and economic dependence on men.
So out of these harm reduction strategies, what do you think could positively impact the DRC and the Mbuti peoples?
Well, the Uganda government launched various campaigns which targeted the outside men as opposed to the women, aiming to change behavior and social norms surrounding sexuality. With full support from the government, it led to better access and acceptance in the community. Perhaps a similar strategy could work in the DRC.
So from what you both have shared, it sounds like they have a long way to go to see any change.
Yeah, you're right. The instability within the government makes implementing policy changes nearly impossible, and without a stable leader, focusing on health issues is unlikely.
And we also recognize that we cannot have a true emic or inside perspective since we didn't find direct information coming from Mbuti people.
Plus, all our information was usually a third-party perspective and further skewed by our Western worldview.
Well, Podcast Nation, this concludes our episode for the week. Thanks to Brooke and Brandon for talking to me about the power imbalances in the DRC that are impacting the HIV and AIDS epidemic within the Mbuti people. Special thank you to our dedicated listener, Susan, and our production crew behind the scenes. Thanks for listening. Tune in next week.